Good evening and welcome to the hashtag. This week, inequality, injustice. That's right, I'm talking about the different footy teams and the different budgets they all get allocated. And the footy fixture, so unfair. For those of you who haven't seen the footy fixture before, I'm afraid I can't show it to you. For you see, it is a sacred document and it lies at the centre of the universe, which explains why the world revolves around it. The issue is that the footy fixture is not even. Some teams get more home games, some play the easier teams more often, and therefore they get an unfair advantage. And this issue has angered a lot of footy fans. In fact, it's causing a lot of footy fans to, I'm going to try to put this gingerly, causing a lot of footy fans to, crack the shits. A common expression meaning to lose one's temper and or throw an ensuing tantrum. Interesting expression, to crack the shits, one which has never really been explained to me properly. Where did it come from and how did it come to mean what it does today? My personal interpretation is that sometime in the past, cavemen used to consider their feces highly valuable and as such would collect their feces and stockpile it en masse like a treasure trove. Over time, the feces naturally became quite dry and quite brittle. One day, the leader of the tribe had an argument with his teenage son who became very angry and upset with his father, possibly because his video games were taken away, and in a wild tantrum he took a sledgehammer and quite literally proceeded to crack the shits, such is my interpretation. There are lots of expressions involving the word shit. However, I don't use that word very often personally, because I don't see the point, and if I were to continue to use expressions I didn't understand, then quite literally I would be talking shit. I digress. The footy fixture. I agree, it's not fair, it's an outrage, and something should be done. Gestures emphatically. I'm being serious now. The public and the footy players are uniting, because it should be an even playing field, it should be fair, but at the moment the teams aren't even, so it's not fair. And I agree, I don't think it's fair that some teams have more home games, some have more Friday night games, and some play the shit teams more often. Some have more money, some have more media exposure, some get better draft picks, some teams have better players, some teams have more tall people, some teams have more people with beards, some teams have more Gary Ablets, some teams have got more blue on their uniform, and blue's my lucky colour, but my team Richmond have got none of it, which I think is just so unfair. My argument is simply this. Shut the hell up. If we have two or more teams in any competition, things won't be even. Even if we choose everything randomly, some teams are going to end up with better players and better circumstances. That's the nature of randomness, that's the nature of the universe, and this effect is going to be more noticeable the more teams there are. It's science, it's a lottery, it's a raffle, it's shit, but hey, that's what luck is. You're all big tough men, aren't you? Big tough footballers with big tough muscles? Or maybe instead of crying because the other boy at school won the raffle and he got a lollipop and you didn't, maybe you should use your big tough muscles to build a bridge. Yes, because bridges solve problems. The last bridge you built in Melbourne was the Westgate in order to solve traffic problems. And hey, you don't hear people complaining about traffic anymore, do you? So please, stop complaining about the discrepancy between the footy teams. It's a myth and I don't give a shit. Some teams might get more money than others, but giving a team more money doesn't necessarily make them any less shit. The new team, the Giants for example, have had more money thrown at them than a skyscraper in Abu Dhabi, however they're not exactly pushing for a top 4 finish. In fact, if you're really upset about this money discrepancy thing, it might interest you to know that the odds of the Giants winning a single game are so small that if you went to the TAB every week and put a $5 bet on them to win that week's match, then by the time they actually did win a game in 50 years' time, you would make enough money not only to recover your own previous losses, but also enough left over to give every other team in the competition all the money they could possibly need to even things out. The moral of the story, to those who are complaining about the fixture or the budget thing, I say this. Yes, some teams are luckier than others, especially the shit ones, but honestly, we're all just going to have to get our shit together and stop stirring shit, because hey, it's just a game, it's supposed to be fun, stop being so full of shit, I don't give a shit, life shit, stiff shit, and frankly, I'd rather be having a Chardonnay. No shit. In closing, I don't want to seem unfair or completely closed-minded because I have thought the issue through and I've thought of a solution. So if you do want to make the AFL truly equal, here's what you do. Find Gary Ablett, take him into a room, take a sample of his hair, clone him 396 times, fill every team with 22 Gary Ablets, then sit back, relax and watch some bloody amazing footy. And while we're at it, let's genetically modify him so he doesn't have a mouth, in which case we will finally reach the ideal situation where every footy player in the league will shut up and stop complaining. What's that? Life not fair? What can I say? Shit happens. My name's Ashley McPherson. Cheerio, Samui, Thailand. He's what? He's bald? Well, can you get an eyebrow or something? My team will never win the flag at this rate. Turn that off!